I want to make an update about this Druid leveling build towards level 70 plus and endgame. At level 70-ish, this build is very effective against both group of mobs and also bosses. It is also super tanky. With the new Barber heart in the season, your critical strike damage and subsequent damage will be stored a few seconds and then burst out with a 1.4 times of the damage. This is why you can see while you are attacking the boss, it seems you are doing nothing at the beginning, but after just a few seconds, the boss's HP bar is depleted to 0. For a group of mobs, you can cast Earthen Bulwark to boost your defense and then trample into them. Trample will automatically summon 6 landslide pillars, which will also strike twice. This combo will clear a cluster of mobs super fast. You can also cast Earthen Bulwark, go into the middle of a group of mobs, cast a Poison Creeper, which will automatically cast a landslide in a circle around you, and the landslide will strike twice. This is super effective to clear a large group of mobs. The better thing is that your Poison Creeper cooldown will be reset often right after the cast, so you can do it again and again. This is insane, which will allow you to push forward in the dungeon very fast without even looking back. Definitely you can make your own combos with Earthen Bulwark, Trample and Poison Creeper to clear very fast in whatever sequence you want. Just in case when your cooldown is not ready, you can cast Petrify to pull all the mobs on the screen together, manually cast Landslide, and they will be all destroyed together fast. I will break down the skill tree, the gears, and the Paragon board. All of these are on the D4 Planner website shared in the description below. If you like the content, please smash the like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to never miss a video. Just in case you would like to know how I leveled this character from level 1 to 50 in just a few hours, and how I leveled from 50 to 70, these two videos are linked in the description as well. For basic skill, we still use Storm Strike to get our spirit back. This will also grant us 15% damage reduction, which is huge. And then Enhanced Storm Strike, Fierce Storm Strike to make the enemies vulnerable. For our core skill, this is our main damage output. We use Landslide. Put 5 points into this. I have a line here because I have the +4 rank on the glove. Then we use Enhanced Landslide. Most importantly, we will use Primal Landslide to get the guaranteed critical strike. We then put 1 point into Heart of the Wild to be able to get wild impulses to further increase our core skill damage. Some changes on the tree is that I put 1 point into Predatory Instinct to be able to get 3 points into Iron 4, so this will grant our 9% damage reduction even after we leave Barber form for 3 seconds. And then we put 1 point into Earthen Bulwark, Enhanced Earthen Bulwark, and use Preserving Earthen Bulwark to get Fortify. Some changes I made for Point Creeper as well is that I only put 1 point into Poison Creeper because later on in the game the poison damage doesn't seem that nominal as early on in the game, so this will be mainly used to trigger the Landslide. And then 1 point in the Enhanced Poison Creeper and still 1 point in the Ferocious Point Creeper to increase the damage of this. And we also pull out all of the points for Call of the Wild for now. We still have 1 point in Ancestral Fortitude and 3 points in Vigilance. This will give us another 15% damage reduction for 6 seconds after using a defensive skill. This is huge. And then for our Wrath skills, we still have all the passives for the Earth skills here to gain all the benefit that we get from Fortify and also the damage output. For Trample, we use Enhanced Trample and very importantly Savage Trample to get 40 spirit back whenever we cast it. 1 point in the Neurotoxin and then 3 points in Envenom to boost our damage in a huge way. For our ultimate skills, we have all the points for Petrify, and then 1 point in Defense, and then 3 points in Natural Disaster. And then I changed it to put more points into Resonance because all of our damage output skills are nature magic skills, so this will further boost our damage output. Still 3 point in defensive posture to increase the amount of fortify from every resource that we have. And the last, we still use Nature's Fury as our key passive. For the gear, I think we need now to pay attention to the aspects and also some of the most wanted stats on them. For the helmet, I have the aspect of mending to increase the duration of Earthen Bulwark and also allow it to be replenished. And for the stats, lucky hit chance is really great because we use our Spirit Boon Pack Leader, which is a lucky hit chance based, to reset our cooldown for Poison Breaker. Barrier generation, I think it's good to have for now. I don't really figure out how to use it. Total armor to boost the defense and also cooldown is a really great stat on the helmet. For the chest, I have the ballistic aspect to boost our earth skill rank by 2. You can also use aspect of disobedience to further increase the defense, but I just feel my defense is okay for now, so I use this one to boost the damage. For the stats, you are really looking for all kinds of damage reduction. For example, damage reduction while fortified, damage reduction when enemies are poisoned. Total armor, the damage while in human form is just on it. I have to reroll it, probably find a better one on this. For the gloves, I have the subterranean aspect on this to be able to automatically cast a Landslide whenever I cast Poison Creeper. So this is one of the enabler aspect for the build. As for stats, we have lucky hit chance, which is super important, and also +4 rank of Landslide. This will boost our damage in a huge way. And the lucky hit to heal life, this is good to have, not necessary at all. In the best case, probably you should have the crit damage with the earth skill. And lastly, we have the crit chance on the gloves. For the pants, definitely look for all of the damage reduction stats. Here, I think I got lucky. I have a 4 damage reduction stat on the pants, which is not really necessary. If you can get 2 plus total armor, maybe some life, that should be good enough. And for the aspect, I have the aspect of might. This will give us 20% damage reduction whenever we use Storm Strike. And this is really huge to boost our defense. And for the boots, we have symbiotic aspect to basically reduce the cooldown. This is critical and also one of the enabler for this build. With this aspect, you can actually have the Poison Creeper cooldown and also other cooldowns to be reset super fast. And for the stats, looking for movement speed, spirit cost reduction, and then I have the movement speed for 4 seconds after killing an elite. So this is really nice to have, not really necessary. And I have willpower as well to further boost the damage just a little bit. And for the weapon, I'm using a 2-hand staff. So this will have a implicit of damage to the CC'd elements to be very consistent. You can use 2-hand axe as well to have the damage to the healthy enemies. That will be further increase your damage at the beginning, but I think the staff is basically more consistency. For the stats, I think this one is not really optimized yet. Actually, you want to look for vulnerable damage on it, willpower or all stats, and then critical damage and also critical damage with the earth skill. So that will be the perfect on this weapon. So this is what I have for now. I just feel the damage is already good for level 70-ish, and I'm going to push this towards higher level and then maybe get a better luck to drop a better weapon. And for the aspect, I have a Trample on it. So this is another enabler for the build. So you cast the Trample and it will automatically cast a Landslide. This is super powerful. I also have the Crown Staff dropped, and I haven't figured out how to use this yet. Maybe I'll try it later in the game. As for the amulet, I have the aspect of retaliation on it to further increase the critical strike damage for Landslide. For the stats, I don't know how I got lucky on this, maybe not necessary. I rolled 3 damage reduction stats on this, and also a lucky hit chance while you have a barrier. You have a barrier whenever you cast the Earthen Bulwark for I think at least 9 seconds, so this is good enough to increase the lucky hit chance. I think on the amulet you should look for movement speed and plus rank for the emblem passive skill and spirit cost reduction in the best case. I don't have that yet. I'll keep looking for these stats on the amulet. And then on the rain, you should look for vulnerable damage, lucky hit chance, critical strike chance, and also critical strike damage or critical strike damage with the Earthen skill. Oh, by the way, for the hearts on the amulet, I have this heart to be able to pull all of the distant enemies towards you. This is very critical for this build. If you pull all the enemies from all the screen towards you and cast whatever you have, for example poison creeper, it will clear them up super fast. And then on the first ring, I have this brutal heart to suppress the damage. So this will give you up to 20% damage reduction, which is huge. And then this will be boosted by 2.5 times to deal the damage back to the enemies. Super important for defense and a little bit helpful for the offense as well. For the second ring, you still should be looking for vulnerable damage, critical strike chance, lucky hit chance, and also one of the critical strike damage or critical strike damage with the earth skill. I don't have it yet. We'll keep looking for it. And as you can see, I have the Barber heart on this. So this will basically store your critical strike and subsequent damage for a period of time, few seconds, and then it will cast it back to the enemies and boost it by 14%. So this is super important and very powerful for this build. For spirit boons, I have rareness to take 10% reduced damage from elites, a little bit helpful on the defense, and then Ave and Rush to get 30% critical strike damage. Good for damage, good stuff. And very importantly, use Pack Leader to reset the cooldown of Poison Creeper. This is super critical. And then Bolster to get Fortify from your maximum life whenever you use defensive skill. And lastly, we use Calm Before the Storm to help on the cooldown. For Paragon board, I'm still working on it, starting from the basic board to get some of the life and armor, and then some damage and life, which is pretty nice. And then very importantly, put the exploit glyph here to get consistent vulnerable damage and the stats on the enemies. And also I'm working on increase the level of this to be able to get more, for example, dexterity nodes to further increase the vulnerable damage here. Then moving up to get more damage, some willpower, and for the first board I'm using the Earthen Devastation, so this will further increase 30% of your earth skill damage, which is good stuff. And on the way, I also picked up Oppress to get more damage to CC'd enemies and also critical strike damage to the CC'd enemies. So this cluster is full of damage to CC'd enemies and critical strike damage to the CC'd enemies, which is very juicy. Moving up to get the glyph socket, I put in earth and sky here to increase the nature magic skill damage. Still thinking about what's the best to do this, but for now this is what I have. And then moving to the right to get more critical strike damage in this cluster. And then I move a little bit to the right to get more armor because we don't have a lot of defense for this build, so getting armor is really a good choice. Then move left to this cluster of crushing earth to get more damage for the earth skill and also some of the critical strike damage for CC'd enemies. Pretty juicy. And then for the second board, I chose Highlighted Malice to get 45% increase of damage when there are 3 or more poison enemy nearby, so this happens almost all the time. And then on the way pick up some knife, this is good. And then I move down to pick up this overturn cluster to get more damage to poison enemies and also elites, so this is good. And now I'm moving down to get this glyph socket and put a spirit in to have more critical strike damage, but my glyph is not upgraded yet, so I'm still working on that. And the plan is to move to the left to get more damage to poison enemies, and then move down to get more damage reduction when enemies are poisoned, and then moving down here to have the force board. Hope this video is useful for you to level your Druid character. I will probably make another update video of this build when I reach a higher level in the endgame. See you in the next one.